All right. Well, fab. Thanks so much for joining us, Jackie, and for sharing your experience of being a relatively new local area coordinator. And I suppose today is just all about hearing how you've settled into the role, how you found this first year or so in the role, finding out a bit about you, and I suppose trying to bring to life what local area coordination looks like in practice for anyone that's thinking about maybe taking on the role or who just wants to hear a little bit more about local area coordination. I mean, just to start, could you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to become a local area coordinator?
Yes, so my main career was in frontline policing and investigation. Um, and I did that for many years. But really it wasn't really the role for me long term. It was more of a response role rather than a relational role and seeing things through for people. So I did leave the police and I worked with Relate. And I worked there for about 6 years delivering the Reducing Parental Conflict programme. And because of that work, I was able to train in mentalisation based therapy. And that was really working with couples who were in high conflict but under the threshold of domestic abuse. Um, and during that time, I also facilitated group therapy sessions with separated parents who were also high in conflict and again below the domestic abuse threshold. But this one was really about where the impact of that conflict had negative impact on children.
Hmm.
So that was really relational and strengths-based work, which is what I always really wanted to do, as opposed to policing, which was always just a crisis, an emergency, in a response to that, rather than actually dealing with the issues or challenges longer term. Um, but in relation to LAC, I wasn't really looking for a job. I was quite happy. I was on a really good team at that point. Really good project development team, and I saw the LEC role and I just thought, wow, that is literally all of the relational work and the strengths-based work that I'd been doing, and it just really struck a chord. It just underpinned my own values actually more than anything else, I suppose. And I know the value and the importance of relationships, or I understand them. So I applied. And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
What was your first impression of local area coordination as an approach when you started, and then when once you actually got the role and sort of settled into it, had that impression of what local area coordination is all about, has that stayed the same or has that changed?
It hasn't changed really. It's very much the same. But I think what I am able to see now is actually the principles in action, and the principles, I think they're in your mind all of the time, because what always stands out for me is that we don't fix, we don't do two or four. And I think thinking of the principles continuously, which I think just becomes natural, then you're not fixing.
Mm.
You're not taking anything away from anybody, and having the principles as a reminder or just something to think about, then you're not.
Mm.
And I often do think, oh, am I fixing there? And I just think that they're a really good go-to. Um, but I think, that when we talk about that, it is we're not doing anything for anybody else.
Mm.
We're empowering them to do it for themselves.
Yeah. What difference do you think that makes by you not stepping in and kind of taking a problem away from someone as much as possible, but supporting someone
Well, it's
to
their
kind of take
learning,
that for
isn't it? It's
themselves?
their opportunity to have that, to go through the experience. And sometimes, the experience can be a little bit tricky or a bit difficult, but you're going through it all the same. And from doing that, you're learning. You're learning about yourself, even down to regulating emotions, to developing and building resilience, and for future, if that problem reoccurs in the future, then you're probably able to deal with it a little bit better than maybe previously, or not even be bothered by it, not even be fazed by it. It's just it's fine, get through that, I've done it before. Yeah.
So is that kind of growth that happens as a result of having those kind of experiences yourself, maybe feeling uncomfortable to start with, maybe needing some additional support and guidance to get through that. But then that becoming familiar and getting more confident about it, about approaching those things as time goes on.
Yeah. And sometimes people will even say, if you say, well, you try and do it, and they think about it and will say, well, actually, I'll do it, but can you just be there? And I'm there, but they don't need me there. It's just that backup. It's just that bit of confidence.
Could you talk about the kind of process of building trust and building relationships in local area coordination? Because it's a community-based role, and we often talk about local area coordinators having the time and scope within the role to build trust with people. Could you just tell us a bit more about how that works?
So I think it is the time. It really is. But it's also listening. We've got the time to listen. And I think there's so much to be said for that. But then it's also about, and we've talked, I've talked about this in our group, but it's about having presence, but being present. And I think those things together are the difference. And really showing up, because you can be somewhere, but you're not present. And if if you say you're gonna do something, then you do it, you follow through with what you've talked about, because that alone just builds that trust. And we've certainly spoken in the past about professional hovering and feeling like a spare part, and just kind of thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? I'm kind of just here. But that's really paid off now. And there was a real change in how I was received by certainly the community venues and the people in the community venues. And now I'm just part of it. I'm just there, and they come to me, oh, here's Jackie, this is such and such. And it's just sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, if I'm honest. But then I think, well, actually it's really good, because this is the bit that I was missing before when I was newer.
Yeah, it's not here's your local area coordinator. It's, oh, Jackie.
Yeah.
So it's a human face, isn't it?
But that, it just shows you how it's just become really, really embedded. It's certainly in my little area.
Yeah, and that trust does take time to build, doesn't it? And it's the the point you make about being that human face, being Jackie. That's a big part of it, because if you're introducing someone to a nameless, faceless service, if you're someone that's going through that process, it can be daunting, can't it? Because you don't know who's on the other end, you don't know what they're like, you don't know what the process is going to look like. But when it's meet Jackie, Jackie's really nice, she's helped so and so with some different things. There you go. That's about as far as you can go to kind of get rid of that sort of initial nervousness and reluctance to reach out for help, isn't it?
And I think the beauty with LAC, when you say that, is it's quite generic. So it's not just an introduction for, because I always just say, look, don't put a label on it. let's, or a subject, or put it in a bracket, I'll just have a conversation with them and we'll take it from there. And it is literally as simple as that. Whereas, we talk about referrals. Well, it's a referral for something usually. And that's never, in my experience anyway, what is important to the person. It's always something else. And maybe when we talk about what's important to them, well, not maybe, we know from the work we do, when we go through that, then you might get to what Serviceland have referred for, but that's not what's immediately important to the person. Yes, it's happening in the life, but other things have to happen that are more important than that thing that service thinks that you're important for now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you need both, don't you? You need services that are around for specific purpose. Like you break your arm, you go to a hospital. I want a cast on it. I want a professional who's able to come and help me with that problem. You could say that about a specific housing issue, or a care like need that a family member might have. But having someone like yourself who can help someone navigate all of that and tie all of those different elements of support together, along with the support of friends, family, neighbours, community assets at the time when they really need it. Those things can marry together really well, can't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Could you just tell us a little bit about the impact that you've seen while you've been in the role over the last year or so? What impact have you started to see? Whether it's people that you've been alongside, individual people or families, or in the wider community as a result of your work.
So the impact, I mean, there's so many really, but I think the main impact that I see or change in people is their confidence. And without the confidence, they wouldn't get out the house. So a lot of it's been isolation and loneliness, not knowing what's around them in the community. But by just one, sharing that information that they might not have access to, but building that confidence in different ways. And it could just be, I don't know, one lady, when I pass a house, I knock on her door and I say, "Are you up for a walk today?" And we'll walk at the top of the street and back, because she's got so many health conditions. She's isolated. But if I didn't do that, she wouldn't get out of the house. But actually now we've got a bit of a plan, and we've got a goal, or she's got a goal, and that's to walk to the bakery eventually. That she hasn't done for years because she hasn't been able to. She hasn't had the confidence. And she feels judged because she doesn't look how she thinks everybody else looks. So it's about building her confidence that actually, yes, you do, and actually nobody's looking at you. And building up our strength. And every time we do it, she walks further, for example. And she said, actually, not so long ago, do you know, it's just lovely to feel the wind in my hair, which sounds like a big cliche. And I just thought, and that's the difference. You've sat in your house for years with the gas heater on boiling, and now you're outside in the fresh air and you can feel the wind on your face and in your hair. And she was just, the difference to her was like that was massive. Whereas to you and I, that's nothing. We do that every day. But she
it
only
shows
does that when I knock on her door.
It shows what we take for granted, though, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It really does. Yeah. So confidence, making new friends, just getting out and about, getting mobility back, start thinking, start planning even. I nearly said having dreams, but I don't suppose I mean dreams, but it's about maybe plans, looking forward to doing things. you know, this lady in particular said, you know, when you don't come, I miss you because I can't go. We don't set certain dates. I just do it when I walk past the house because I can't walk past the house without just saying, do you want to go for a walk? But I factor that time in. But she misses that. So now it's like, well, what do you think you can do when that doesn't happen, when I don't knock on your door?
Mm.
You know, so that's leaving her with that, well, what can I do? So she's currently thinking about that while I'm kind of thinking, well, I know what I'm going to suggest. If you say what I'm expecting you to say,
Mm.
but you can never second guess what she's going to say. So I'll just keep that to myself for now. But yeah, it's really the confidence building for people. It's really empowering.
Mm.
Just and actually feeling heard as well and interested. So when you ask people, what's your vision of a good life? It's always, what? No one's ever asked that before, but it's actually a really hard question to answer
Mm. It is.
because, you know, what does it even mean? You know, some people, you know, you have to have a conversation about, well, what does it mean? You know, people interpret that very, very differently. Yeah. So in terms of community, I think there's more awareness of LEC. That I don't think anybody, not that I'm aware of anyway, I don't think anybody heard of it before. So there is more awareness, but I think there's more because I've now got examples of what it looks like in my area. I can share them. I mean, obviously they're anonymized, but I can share examples now that I have them, and it makes more
Mm.
sense. Whereas, you know, roll back to July last year, it was really hard to even explain what LAC was. And even now, you know, it's different every time because it's very different for each individual person.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so there's more awareness. And I think for all of the community spaces that I go to, the venues, I would say now they can probably see an increase in footfall in their venues because they are my go-tos. I heavily rely on going there for groups, just somewhere to meet, even cafes, wherever, supermarkets, GPs, hairdressers, I can't think of anything, churches.
Wherever people are
There's
at.
just so many. Yeah, it's just, yeah. So wherever I go, you know, I generally take people with us, and it's really good.
Jackie, I've got one more question. Um, if you were, or if you were talking to someone who is thinking about applying as a local area coordinator, um, what would your advice be to them, or what pearls of wisdom would you share?
Well, definitely do it. Absolutely. Because I don't feel like this is a job at all. And I keep saying that to my manager. I can't believe it's a job. It doesn't feel like a job. I'm really invested in it. And I think it just, because of the principles, I think that removes the fact that it's a job. It removes that feeling because it's so rewarding. Because you're seeing people who've been in a very difficult situation grow
Mm.
and some rediscover themselves, but then some find, you know, new things, that they learn new things about themselves and then just, you know, grow and go from there. It's brilliant. It's really, really rewarding.
And that's the big thing why it doesn't feel so much like a job, because there's tough aspects as well, no?
Mhm. Absolutely. And that, you know, I'd be lying if I said, you know, there aren't. It's very tough, but actually, you know, think about the principles. You've got to go through that in order to see the benefits. You have to have that experience, and it's allowing. And I think from all of, I think back to all of this sort of professional experience I've got, and then you think about some personal experience, because I think you bring a lot of yourself in. I don't mean my circumstances, I just mean me as a being. And I think that makes a difference, because it's real, and it's life.
All the ups and downs.
Yeah, definitely.